Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. And I know it's been a little while. I do apologize for that, sincerely. But back full steam ahead now. But before I get back to my regularly scheduled programming on the channel, I wanted to do this video. I was asked to make it, and it's something that I hope we can get some good engagement with. So if you remember, it would have been probably a few months ago now. I did a video on a community initiative for power set balancing, and basically was asking for input on how would you balance each and every power set. I still have all your I read all your emails, messages, Discord messages, everything. I still have all that. The unfortunate part is that I think that's going to be on the back burner for a while, because that was Batuba's sole responsibility. He was the one that was captaining that. And with his departure, there hasn't really been anyone to fill that part of his role yet. There has been someone that's taken over artifacts, and that's going forward. But in terms of like power set balancing, that's more like a group dev effort now. And with everything else they have going on, everything else they've announced, I'm not sure when they're going to get to actual power set balancing, which we do definitely need. But what we do have is the opportunity to help the devs design raids. Now, what I mean by that is, in the design structure, let's take this example. If we're looking at the raids that just recently released with this DLC, when they hit test server, there's not too many changes you can make. You've got about a 2-week, sometimes 3-week window. A lot of all the audio cues, most of the graphical effects, all that stuff's done. And you can't really change that. So you can't ask the design team to redesign something completely or change a complete fight a couple weeks. That's not going to happen. That couple weeks on test server is more for fine tuning, in terms of tuning damage ranges, stuff like that. The easy stuff to change. But that puts us in a position where if the raid itself isn't really mechanically challenging, there's no foundation for us to kind of work off as players to kind of give feedback. So in this Brainiac raid, so we've got Flash to the Future. Or is it the Flash to the Future? FFE. I forget it because there's I don't think it's Flash to the Future. Yeah, no, it is Flash to the Future. That one's Fantastic Voyage, I think. So basically with that, we have Brainiac. He'll do his thrusters. I mean, that's fine. He'll do his charge. Really, other than that, there's not too mechanics. Brainiac, you can't really interrupt. He's just a boss. He teleports to the center. I mean, it's just, for a raid that is supposed to be critically challenging elite and has all these different elite levels, there's really not much to work with in terms of mechanics. You can make the ads hit harder. You can make Brainiac hit harder. And that's about it. That's all you can really do, because there's nothing else that represents itself besides some minor mechanics like those thrusters, which are super easy to avoid. Like the chain strikes work similar to Hive Master's bombing run, when that phase happens. But I mean, really, that's about it. Everything else is just a damage range. Where, say, if you look at if we go back to Fractured Godsphere, there's multiple levels to Rail Fight in terms of the mind control, in terms of the damage break mechanic, in terms of the teleport mechanic and the ads mechanics. And then you've got the Berserkers. Were they Berserkers? I can't remember. That NPC that would basically ignore aggro. And then when the final fight with Zeus, I mean, you've got multiple levels with the Zeus fight. You've got the ads, you've got the bomb phase, you've got the shield phase, you've got his invulnerability phase, you've got the Source Storms, all that kind of stuff. So it's a multi-layered mechanical fight. And stuff like that, then you can not only adjust Zeus's damage, but you can adjust the damage of those mechanics. You can make the bomb hit harder and this and this and this. So it gives a much better opportunity for us to be able to have a great and engaging raid. So what I plan to do with this video is that I want all of you, same thing. I'll put up in the description, as well as in the video here, I'll put my Discord link so you can PM me on Discord. You can send an email address to my Gmail. You can send me a message on the forums. I want all your ideas for raid mechanics that you want to see. They could be past mechanics, say if we go back to even the back caves, because I know a lot of you weren't around when they first released. So Inner Sanctum, you've got the second boss with Inner Sanctum. You had to separate the boss from the ads because the ads would heal the boss. And they would spawn periodically. So if you drag the boss to the center, you had to kill the ads before they got to the boss, or drag the boss to the east side and they would spawn on the west side, and vice versa. So you have mechanics like that. You've got mechanics like the Arc Custodian, where he would absorb the powers of different ads and they would affect his abilities. You had Subcontract 2, Subcontract didn't actually have too many mechanics, but in terms of like Kondak, you had the group mechanics in terms of like shutting off the water, carrying the rock, and like a protector role. You had turning the fountains at the same time. Fortress of Solitude, you had the split paths. Prime Battleground, you had mechanics in terms of killing ads and then destroying the spawner, so then you could eliminate the ads in the fight or just ignore them completely. It's up to you, your choice. I mean, Nexus, and you're going to see the mechanics here in Nexus, but there's plenty of mechanics in Nexus and Paradox in terms of being able to have an ad that got buffed, but one of the Lex Luthors would get buffed, and you had to bring that ad or that robot towards Lex to explode on him to drop the debuff. And if you destroyed the ad too quickly, or it didn't explode near Lex, then he kept being buffed. So then you've got to deal with the buff damage, buff health, stuff like that. So there's plenty of mechanics. Even if you get to like group ones, like where it's mixes up the flow of the raid. So in terms of Darkside War Factory, you had different boss combinations. So each time you queued up the raid, it was a little bit different. And same thing with Nexus. You could choose how you wanted to defeat the Lexes, or on the villain side, you could choose how to defeat the Batmans. That would change the bosses at the end and on the side rooms. Same thing with like Darkside War Factory. You had different boss combinations. Some were harder than others. So the nice thing about that is that the raid's different each time. So you queue up the raid, and it's not just the same boring thing you can farm, because you can have different combinations. Nexus was similar towards the artifact at the end. So you had like 20 different variations that you could do that would impact the fight. Same thing, Lockdown. Lockdown is more simpler. There's only 3 versions of it, but the same thing. The Lockdown, if it was like the fire, the ice, or I forget the other one was, it would impact with either like the laser beam you had to avoid, or the ice spawn pools. You had the fire pools from like Darkside War Factory, or the fire trails on the second boss. So there's so many different mechanics that we already have present in the game, that if they could pick and choose, so that what I want to do is have this list. So basically a big giant list, all the mechanics that are actually worthwhile, none of this like mind control BS and everything else that, mechanics that are pointless and really don't do anything. So if we can have the developers be able, at the design stage, be able to pick and choose from this list, then we know the raid is going to be mechanically challenging when it hits test server. So then it's really easy to kind of adjust it from there. So we're not just adjusting the boss damage, we're adjusting all of the damage values from the mechanics. So then it adds that other element and more replayability. Because that's what we're missing. The raids, they just have, like, Fractured Godsphere was good. I know some people complained that it was harder or longer to beat, but it had a lot of replayability, and that's what's the fun part. You can't just, with these raids now, Elite was completed, all the critical levels were completed, and then you're just going for no death feats, stuff like that, and then everyone's like, well, now we're done. So now, all these endgame players aren't playing the game, or if they're playing other games, and the DLC's only been out for less than a month, or has it been a month? No, it's pretty much sure less than a month. So we need something to keep players engaged. And the only way to do that is going to have a raid or 2. That's going to be like, if they're going to be doing 2 raids, you're going to have one easier one. The second one's going to be the hard one. But same thing. I mean, there's not really that much mechanics even in Fantastic Voyage. I mean, Gorilla Grodd has some mechanics, but the same thing, they're easily ignored just by DPSing him. And then the final boss fight just has one of those ones where if the bosses are standing close to each other, they're buffed. So then you have to separate them. So it's like artificially creating a situation where you need multiple tanks or just running around separating the bosses. I mean, that's not really a mechanic. That's just something that you had to put in there because there wasn't anything else to work with. So now, through this video, we'll be giving the developers something to work with. So you can also... I'm focusing more on the mechanics that already exist in the game because it's easier for the devs. So hey, this mechanic's from Darkside War Factory, take this mechanic from Nexus, take this mechanic from like Halls of Hades, take this mechanic from like Throne of the Dead, and then it's easy because it's already there. They can look at the coding, whatever they have to do. They can see the instance and how it works. You can also put mechanics that you want to create. I certainly want to have a mechanic that involves controllers more often in terms of like enrage debuffs, in terms of like if a healing debuff drops or a damage debuff, stuff like that. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's something to involve the controller role to have more enrage timers like that. So you can also put in mechanics that don't exist yet. Just make sure you explain them properly. So yeah, as long as I can explain what that mechanic that you want is to the developers, I'll put it on the list, and then they can kind of pick and choose from there. So I think by doing this, it'll put us in a better position moving forward to be able to test properly and have raids that have great replayability. So I hope that you guys can help me with this. Once again, follow the description in the comments. You can post a comment, send me an email, post on the forums, send me a Discord PM, whichever way you'd like to contact me. And let's get this list started. Thank you guys. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.